Hey you guys, welcome back to Rocket City Yardstead. So if you can't tell by my attire, I'm actually filming two videos at the same time. I have my lemony eggplant caponata over there going on the stove, but I also needed to work on some apples. These are a variety called Gold Rush, and I bought a half bushel bag of these probably a month ago, I'm guessing, somewhere in that vicinity. And I did do a video where I was canning them and we made an apple cake, but they are not storing well this year. There has been a lot of bug damage on these and just rotting apples because of that. And so I decided with the rest of the apples, you can see I have this big pile in front of me already. I'm going to, where you have produce, you have gnats. And I did not get him. So anyway, I decided with the rest of these apples, because they're starting to get soft, and I just think they weren't great for storage this year, we are going to try and make something kind of like fried apples. So my thought process here is I have these chopped apples. They're in nice bite-sized pieces. I'm going to fry them up in some butter with some cinnamon, vanilla, probably a little bit of maple syrup, let it cool, and I'm going to package it up into Ziploc bags where we can just pull out enough for me and my mom to have a meal. I'm thinking these would be great for like oatmeal topping. If we get some ice cream, it would be good on top of ice cream. So that's my thought process here. This is totally an experiment. I did some looking on the internet and I didn't quite find what I wanted. And so I just thought I'd bring you guys along and we could see how this turns out. I do think I will leave some of it out, and then tomorrow morning I will make some oatmeal and we can eat some of it on top of the oatmeal. But I have 5 more apples I need to get chopped up, and then I'm going to get these on the stove and get them frying up. I guess my goal here is sort of like, if you've ever been to Cracker Barrel, maybe a little bit like their fried apples, except I'm pretty sure those are thickened with cornstarch. And I'd rather not need to thicken these. If we're going to eat them on things like oatmeal, it doesn't necessarily need to be thickened, because if it's syrupy, that'll just soak into the oatmeal and won't be a big deal. So again, it's just an experiment. We're going to see how this goes. I'm sure it's going to taste good no matter what. It's just maybe more a texture and consistency issue that I'm a little iffy on, if that makes sense. It smells wonderful in here, by the way, because that caponata is going on the stove behind me. Yeah, some of these have like internal bug damage. Let me see if I can show you what this looks like. There we go. So that's why I decided I needed to do all of them, even the ones that look like they're fine. Between the caponata and these apples, I'm very glad that I have leftovers for dinner tonight. I made some beef and broccoli 2 nights ago, I think, and we have leftovers. I'm always happy on a busy day to not actually have to cook dinner. So I've added a stick of butter to this pan here. That probably sounds like a lot of butter, but when you consider how many apples I have and how many servings this is going to make, it's really not that much divided between all of them. So we're just going to get this melted, let it start bubbling a little bit, and then we will add our apples to the pot. I let this butter cook until it has started to brown, because those browned milk solids, they taste amazing. So now I'm going to add my apples. This is going to spit on me, I think. Oh, this might have been too many apples. You guys can be honest. You come here to watch me make a mess. This is definitely going to take a while to cook down with this amount. But, ooh, part of a seed. But I think these are going to be really delicious. Ooh, I need to grab this little thing that fits over my handle. Fun fact, my enamel cast iron brazier is from Aldi. It is Crofton, I think is the name that they go by, but you know, it's their house brand that they have on their specials row. But these Lodge handle grip things that you can buy, they have fit most of the Crofton things I've bought. So I think that's really fantastic. I am going to let these apples cook down for a little while before I add anything else. I just want to get them coated in the butter. And I do have them turned up to a medium heat. I might not have this so high if I had a smaller batch, but I'm trying to combat the steaming I expect to have since I added so many apples to this. I should have maybe done this in 2 batches. Did I mention this was an experiment, you guys? The apples are looking fantastic. They are nice and tender, but they still have a little bit of a chew. I don't want them to be completely mushy. So I think this is a great point to add some vanilla. Some cinnamon. Probably a couple of teaspoons here. I don't want to overdo it, but I do want them to be nice and cinnamony. Going to add, I'm going to turn this down even lower. My stove works on a 10-point scale, and I've turned it down to a 2 because I don't want this maple syrup to burn. I'm going to add probably about a 1/4 cup to a 1/3 cup of maple syrup. And because I like the balance, I'm going to add a little bit of salt. Probably about a 1/4 teaspoon there. And then get this all stirred in. And I just want to let this cook long enough that that maple syrup kind of cooks into the apples a little bit. And then this will be ready to let cool. We will give it a taste test first. But I'm going to put this in Ziploc bags to freeze. And so we definitely want it nice and cooled before we move on to that step. Oh, they smell like fall. Smells like I have a pie cooking in here, which is kind of the idea, really. So these just need to cook for a little bit longer, let that maple syrup incorporate with our apples. And this is going to be a fantastic oatmeal topping. I can already tell. I just took a little taste test, and I think it needs something to balance out the sweet. So I'm going to add just a couple of tablespoons of lemon juice to this and let that acidity help brighten the flavor a little bit. That way, that lemon juice can cook in while the maple syrup is as well. I'm gonna fish for another apple here and give this a test. Oh yeah, just that little bit of lemon juice helps a lot. Our apples are all done cooking and cooling. They're down to about room temperature, so I think I'm good to go ahead and bag them up and get them in the freezer. I do want to give you a close-up look at them. When I added the maple syrup, there were several bits of apple that very quickly sort of started to go to mush. And so I turned the heat off and for the most part, the apples are still nice chunks that, what's the word I want here, that have some good texture to them. But some of them did get a little mushy. And so I just wanted to share that in case anyone else decides they want to make this, that you might end up with a few mushy apples. So let's take a look. All right, so here are our apples. And as you can see, they are mostly still nice chunks, but here's where you can see a bit of apple that just got a little bit mushy. I think they sort of steamed in the liquid of the maple syrup, but they're delicious and we will be happy to eat these, even with a little bit of mush. I have some freezer bags here, and my plan is to put about a cup of apples into a freezer bag because that would give each of us, me and my mom, about half a cup of apples for putting on our oatmeal. Or I think I mentioned earlier, I thought this would probably be like a really good ice cream topping. So just however we want to use it, it'll give us a nice little serving here because the apples do cook down. So you're getting a decent amount in half a cup. So I'm just gonna put it in the bag, squeeze out as much air as possible. And I don't want to mush my apples. So I'm just gonna gently flatten them out and have a bag like that. So I'm gonna do that with the rest of these apples and we'll see how many bags we get. I ended up doing things a little bit differently. I called my mom out here when I realized how many bags this was gonna take, and that just seemed kind of wasteful. So we ended up putting 2 cups in each bag, and that ended up being almost exactly 4 bags. So 16 servings of apples between the 4 bags. I feel like that's a really great amount of apples for this big skillet of apples that we had. 3 of these are gonna go in the freezer. 1 of them I'm gonna stick in the fridge, and then we'll come back tomorrow morning and make some oatmeal and try it as a topping for our oatmeal. So I'm gonna call it a night and I'll see you guys in the morning. Good morning, you guys. So I went ahead and cooked up some oatmeal. I just cooked it on the stove, followed package directions for some rolled oats. I added about a tablespoon of maple syrup and a splash of cream because I don't know about you guys, I grew up on instant oatmeal and peaches and cream and strawberries and cream were my favorite flavors. So the cream is just a little bit of a nostalgic thing for me. But then I added our fried apples. So I just pulled them out of this bag with a 1/4 cup measure straight from the fridge because the oatmeal is really hot right off the stove. So now let's give it a try. The apples have a really nice texture and the flavor sort of makes me think of the instant oatmeal apple cinnamon flavor. So this is a really good use for these. I do think that this would be great, a scoop of these apples heated up with like a scoop of ice cream, especially if you're somebody who's gluten-free. You wouldn't even have to worry about a pie crust. It would just sort of be like apple pie a la mode minus the crust. So I am making an educated guess here when I say I think the ones that I froze are going to come out just fine. People freeze apple pies all the time. They freeze pie filling, and those apples have a nice texture. But the first time we pull one of those out and thaw it and use it, I will let you guys know in a video. So yeah, I think that this is going to be a good way to use apples going forward. It gives us sort of a convenience food item. We can just pull it out of the freezer and thaw it. And I had all those apples I needed to use up, and this is a great way to utilize them. So I'm happy with how this turned out. Thanks for hanging out with me today, you guys. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.